Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming and thanks for those of you who zoomed in. I'm Dan Halling. I'm on the board for the Badger History Group, and this is the third in our 24-25 year series of combined lectures between our two groups, Sauk Prairie Conservation Alliance and the Badger History Group. And tonight's focus is more on the Conservation Alliance side of things. Thanks. Heather did a great job again tonight. It seems like when you try to hook up computers with things, it never goes perfectly. And so she got it working. She's our secretary and takes that on. So, and it's good that we can offer the Zoom technology. I think the hybrid version allows more access. And thanks to the Concordia United Methodist Church for offering us this venue. And please hold your questions until the end. And if you're on Zoom, you can type them in the chat and then Heather will ask them at the end. Please, if you're on Zoom, mute your mic and keep your video off. That always helps with broadband or something like that. So I'm going to invite Tom Peer from the Sauk Prairie Conservation Alliance up to introduce our speaker tonight.
Good evening, everybody. The Fresh Start organization is a very progressive organization that helps a lot of young people. I had the pleasure with working with Jake and his crew this summer. Well, I guess I should say that I mainly watched them work. They were working. They worked on our Hillside project and also one of our Champion Oak projects. So anyway, I'd like to introduce Jake Norman. He's the field coordinator, field supervisor for the Conservation Academy of Operation Fresh Start. So here, Jake.
First off, I'd just like to thank Dan and Tom for the introductions, and Heather for getting everything set up. It was a little bit of a process, getting everything working, and without her help, I don't think any of it would have. Also, thank you all for coming out. I know it's a cold, wet Thursday evening. Appreciate you all making time to be here and listen to me talk a little bit about Operation Fresh Start, the young people that we serve, and the mission that we try and follow. So just a little introduction for myself. As Tom said, my name is Jake Norman, and I serve as Operation Fresh Start's Conservation Academy supervisor. What that means, we'll kind of get into as we get a little bit deeper into the presentation. But before we do, just a short history of Operation Fresh Start as an organization. So Operation Fresh Start, as you can see on our little crest there, it was started in 1970. So this is our 54th year serving the young community of Madison. We were founded by a man named Jack Ostras. He was a Madison police officer. He was a career Madison police officer who, throughout his time spent as a law enforcement officer and dealing with the youth in Madison, came to realize that, you know, he was seeing a lot of the same folks in his day-to-day, and he was having to deal with a lot of issues with similar recurring faces. And it was his thought that just continuing to pick these young people up and to punish obviously wasn't working. So his goal was to involve them in something, teach trades, build community, kind of that growth through service mentality. And since 1970, with Jack Ostras, we've only continued to grow as an organization. I think, I wish I had the exact number, but I think last year we served something around 200 young folks in our various programs, programs that are now quite wide-ranging. And yeah, we're based over there on the east side of Madison. There. So these are a list of all of the various programs and services that we offer. Each one of these is kind of working towards a different goal. Some are designed to serve different communities of young folks. So as you can see, one of our biggest goals is to help these young individuals finish high school and get their high school diploma. Our legacy program is our main like high school continuation and completion program. We work with the Madison Metro School District and are able to, upon completion of the program, award these young individuals with their high school diploma, not just a GED, but an actual diploma from MMSD. And then we also offer a series of post-high school programming, one of which is my own, Conservation Academy. We also run a very similar program to mine that is much more focused on construction and the other trades, such as being an electrician, plumber, etc. That is the Build Academy. And both of those are, again, they're post-high school. So all of those young people have completed and received their high school diploma in one way or another. Many of them came through internally in Operation Fresh Start through our legacy program. Others may have finished in the more traditional models of schooling. We also offer training programs and pathways to try and get folks who are interested in nursing and healthcare, along with CareerScape and CareerPoint. Both of those are more kind of geared towards creation of resumes. CareerPoint runs cohorts where twice a year, I believe it is, they run a cohort that is focused on a different like professional track. So I know our program lead, Lydia, recently just finished up one cohort whose main focus was getting into the financial industry. She partnered with UW Credit Union to give those young folks a lot of experience in finance. And there's another one coming up that is based around healthcare. So people who are interested in nursing. We've had a few folks go in to become phlebotomists. So people who pass through OFS, you know, very diverse interests and end up in a lot of different places. That last section that you see there, that's labeled Bridging Gaps. And I know I'm kind of reading off the slides, which is a little bit of a presentation which I promise it won't be that the whole way. But the Bridging Gaps offer just added support. One of the biggest ones that we have, as you see right there, is called our Drive program. Drive is a more recent program that we've begun to offer. It started after driver's ed programming was removed from high school curriculum, then placing the burden and the cost of achieving a driver's license onto the student. And for many individuals, either the financial cost or the time commitment has been a real stumbling block. It's been a real hurdle for them. Not to mention the fact that if you talk to employers, and based on surveys that have been done around the state, the number one criteria to gain full employment is a driver's license. Without a driver's license, people are really behind the eight ball. So our Drive program is an in-house driver's ed. We have an instructor who is trained and certified by Four Lakes Driving to do behind the wheel. So we are able to get our young folks their driver's license at no cost to them. Lastly is the Drive to Succeed program, and that is a program that is focused specifically towards justice-involved youths. So these are young individuals who have been involved in the courts, may or may not have been incarcerated at some point, and are now back trying to get their lives back on track. So a lot of the support that is offered in there is continuing to try and help them build resumes, handle any like ongoing legal issues or legal fees, and just overall be a strong and supportive group as they are trying to make the changes in their lives that they're looking to. So, as I said, our legacy program is probably our biggest and most well-known of all the programs that we offer. The legacy program is the high school completion program. It's open to anyone aged 16 to 24. And during their time in legacy, each participant is a part of either a construction or a conservation crew, as they are also continuing and earning their high school diploma. An average schedule for them is they work Monday through Thursday from 7:30 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. Usually they'll spend 3 days out on site with their supervisor and their crew, with 1 day back at our building where we have teachers on staff who do the school side of the program. They're AmeriCorps members, which gives them some added benefits, such as whenever each legacy participant who completes their term also earns an education stipend of around $1,400 that they can use in whatever seems fit, whatever is the best fit for them. So a lot of the young folks who come in through the legacy program, they'll spend their time in OFS working and learning about either the conservation world or the construction industry. The majority of them will not continue in those fields once they've achieved their diploma. They will go on to pursue other interests, and we do have folks who they're referred to as our transition coordinators, and are just people to help our participants really explore the ideas and what it can look like for them as an individual. Yeah, so kind of as I mentioned before, some of the things that a legacy participant would walk away from is one big one is that high school diploma. Also, they earn their pre-apprenticeships, the AmeriCorps education, driver's license. Also, every participant, whether it's legacy or academy, such as my program, all of them leave with their OSHA 10 certification and a first aid institute. So that brings us to the program that I work with. This is the Conservation Academy. So both academies, Conservation and Build, were created to be kind of that second step for our legacy participants or from folks with outside interest. We are one of the newest programs at Operation Fresh Start. As you can see, we only started in 2021. So we are, what would this be? We're just moving into our 4th year of existence. Kind of some of the ideas behind Conservation Academy and its creation were to give young folks in the area, to give them a path to entering the conservation and the outdoor world beyond just a 4-year degree. It is still the case where most hiring agencies and most land managers look for 4-year degrees in the applicants that they're screening for a position. And while that is surely a necessity and very useful for some of the more research-based and scientific parts of this field, it's not always the case for the more hands-on in the field, like kind of day in and day out work that we do. All of our Academy participants, it is their job. They have to apply, they interview 2 times, and they are paid. They are paid starting at a wage of $15 per hour with an opportunity to move up to 16, based on the completion of some milestones that we've set up to kind of help track their progress throughout the program. And the end goal, when they're done with Conservation Academy, is that we move them into what that next step will be, into fulfilling and gainful employment in the outdoor industry. So some of the things that our graduates earn, some are quite similar to what the legacy participants earn, but we do have a few extra added in there that are just really going to help them out as prospective candidates for jobs moving forward. And those are the certifications that we try to offer. So by the time a young person is done, they will have received their SAW Level 1 certification for chainsaw operation and maintenance. That is one that we are working on amending currently. SAWW is a regionally recognized certification, which is great, but some folks are looking to travel and kind of expand those horizons a little bit more. So we are currently looking into getting the qualifications so that we would be able to provide the Forest Service's MTC SAW curriculum, which is a nationally recognized certification. Hopefully that gets done before next year. That's been a big goal. Otherwise, all those, the S-130, 190, and all of that you see there, those are their wildland firefighting certifications. So each person who completes the academy will leave as a federally certified Type 2 wildland firefighter. You know, with the last few years and the amount that wildfires are just kind of a growing and increasing news story every summer, and now even into November, a lot of folks are feeling called to get their certifications and play their part in helping protect some of the wildlands out west. And so having those certifications here gives them a huge leg up if that is something that they want to pursue. They are also trained and receive the state pesticide applicator certification, the 6.0, which is for right-of-ways. You know, I'm sure as many of you know, involved in conservation, especially in the Midwest and Southern Wisconsin, pesticide and herbicide usage and application plays a pretty pivotal role in our work to push back some of the well-established invasive plants and shrubs and bring back that native character to our natural spaces. And we just want to make sure that these young folks know how to do it safely and responsibly. Also, again, it looks good on a job application that you have that going in. Also, even though they're not legacy participants, they have access to the drive and the driver's licenses program. Actually, one of my crew members is going to be starting the drive program on Monday, which is it's a huge deal for him. I'm really excited for him. His driver's license has been a long time coming. It's something he's tried to achieve before and had it fall through for various reasons. And that lack of mobility and just, you know, everything else that comes with having a valid driver's license has been a real struggle for him. So really excited, and yeah, hopefully it all goes well. Otherwise, we do offer, as you see, it's a conservation gear scholarship. That is a $500 scholarship that is available to all of our graduates. That was made possible through the generosity of an anonymous private donor. So whoever and wherever they are, just want to thank them again. They've made a very big difference in a lot of young folks' lives. with that money. Another stumbling block towards the outdoor world is just gear costs. You know, you need to be able to protect yourself out there, and that comes with good sturdy work boots, which aren't cheap, durable work pants, tops, things that are durable, won't fall apart, layers, dressing for all the different conditions that you're going to face here in Wisconsin. That adds up. So through this person's generous gift, it has really kind of helped defray a lot of that initial cost. Also, our graduates earn their public land course certificate, which allows them, I have the wrong phrase, but preferential hiring for federal jobs. I don't know if many of you are aware, but the federal jobs portal, USA Jobs, is a nightmare. It is one of the least intuitive and frustrating job portals that there are, and it's just another, it's a stumbling block. So having this kind of preferential hiring gives our folks a step up. They kind of already go into that second round of hiring. It's a lot of federal hiring. Also, there's so many applications coming in, just such a high volume. Usually it doesn't even get, your application and your resume won't get to be seen by an actual person for like multiple rounds of screening. They'll just run it through algorithms looking for keywords. So having that public land certificate kind of gets those resumes and our folks to be seen by real people and not just run through computers. So part of the reason why Conservation Academy was founded also was because it was looking at kind of the makeup of the people who had been working in the conservation industry. And for many years, this industry had been dominated largely by white college-educated men. And one of the big goals of Operation Fresh Start and of the Conservation Academy is to help people from different communities who may have grown up in different situations and come from different means, find a way into the field, not only for their own well-being and to discover their own passions and love for nature, but for a collective well-being. The more voices and the more experiences that we have standing up and defending our natural spaces and our lands, the better it is for all of us. And so just to kind of demonstrate, I have a few slides. All of the information on these next few slides was pulled, it's from the Census Bureau, and also it is from the American Community Service Public Use Sample. So just so you know, that's the background of where these come from. On this page, we can see the ethnic diversity of people who work in the outdoors. Yeah.
So for some reason, I set you up the aspect ratio on Zoom is like a small portion of the right-hand side of that screen. So you can't see the percentages for Hispanic, Latino, African American, or American Indian. I don't know if you'll read those percentages out with what you're going to say, and then it might be good for them to Zoom who can't see.
Sure. Yeah, I'll definitely, I'll just run through those percentages. Apologize to anyone online. So the makeup is white at 81.2%, Hispanic or Latino at 6.2%, Asian at 5%, unknown at 3.7%, Black or African American make up 3.1%, and American Indian and Alaskan Native is 0.8%. So as these numbers demonstrate, there's still a real lack of diversity in the outdoor world. And it is going to take more than Operation Fresh Start or Madison or Southern Wisconsin to change that. But the more effort that we see of having different voices heard in natural spaces and more people finding their place and feeling comfortable and building those relationships in nature. It's a beautiful thing. And as you can see on the left side, that's the breakdowns through the years, starting from 2010. Hopefully that side's still good for those online. Cool. So that just demonstrates that there has been progress made, but still pretty minimal. Next, talking about education. Like I said earlier, this field was dominated by white college-educated men. Education and higher education it's a great thing. It's an incredibly powerful tool, and it can be one of the biggest factors in changing a young person's life. That being said, college is also not the right choice or a viable option for many people. So as the graph here on the left or the right for you, no, still left. I noticed there's no label in it. It doesn't get anything right now. That is the makeup of education levels within the conservation industry. Again, these are coming from the Census Bureau. So as these demonstrate, by and large, people have at least a bachelor's degree, so at least a 4-year degree of higher education. And again, higher education is a wonderful thing. It's a real force. It can be a life-changing experience, but it can also be financially unattainable. There are a lot of folks who maybe they have responsibilities at home that they're not able to get away for school at the moment. You know, they just can't afford it. They don't do well in that traditional educational environment. You know, what are the options for them? So again, Operation Fresh Start and Conservation Academy is trying to show that hands-on, practical, day in and day out work experience, along with the certifications, can make these individuals competitive with someone who is walking out with a bachelor's in biology or botany, whatever it may be. And again, I want to say that is not to discredit any of those degrees. It is just to say that, you know, there are other ways. There are other learning styles, there are other strengths. And again, once we are more open and welcoming to all of that, industry-wide, we're missing out on a lot of really good people. On the right side, that kind of demonstrates the cost of a college education. So as we all know, college is very expensive and seemingly only been getting more expensive year by year for a little while now. And this shows throughout time kind of the steep growth in the price of college educations. And this is just tuition fees. So if you look at a public in-state college, they're kind of that, I think it's that black dotted line. You're looking at about $10,000 over the course of 4 years. And these are average. It might change state by state, region by region. But what those numbers don't factor in are also the costs of housing, of books, of transportation, and one of the other biggest ones is lost wages. If somebody is financially struggling and they are going to school better themselves, that is also taking away time that they could be working and bringing in money for themselves and their family. And this part of our mission also hits close to home for me. I do not have a college degree. I went into a 4-year university program after high school, largely because that's what my friends did. Figured that's what you do after you graduate high school, you go to college. Spent a couple of years there, really struggled, was not happy, was not studying something that I really saw a future in. I was studying philosophy, so not at all where I ended up, nothing related to outdoor or anything like that. I ended up dropping out, and I started doing some seasonal work. I would travel from place to place, and kind of on a whim, I signed up for a 3-month AmeriCorps term in Flagstaff, Arizona, with an organization called the American Conservation Experience, or ACE. And very quickly realized that that's what I wanted to do. And from that point onward, that was close to 10 years ago now. From that point onward, through just experience, I've worked my way up from being just an AmeriCorps crew member who was, hauling rocks around on trail work in the backcountry, to leading crews, to working on experimental fuels reduction projects in California, to managing those projects, to where I find myself now, working with young individuals who, some of whom seem to be in a similar position to where I was. So it means a lot to be in this position. And I also realized that I got to where I was also largely because I came from a stable situation. I was fortunate enough to grow up with loving parents from a solid middle-class household in the Midwest. And that gave me the freedom to just kind of try things out, to move around a lot, to work for next to nothing. I knew that I had a safety blanket or a safety net. A lot of people don't have that. And that is something that we're trying to help with, is to help give them that experience so that they can start in at a place where they actually can live. They can take care of themselves while doing work that matters and work that they love. Next, we'll talk about kind of the gender makeup in the outdoor world. This is one of the more positive ones. So again, largely was male dominated for decades. As you can see now, again, this information comes from the Census Bureau. Now, men only make up around 57%. And as you see on the left side there, pretty quick, dramatic change when it comes towards hiring practices and getting more women in the field. That being said, that is a bit of an asterisk next to it, because while there are many more women in the field, they still make about 70% of what their male coworkers do. But this also just shows the strength that there is when something awareness is brought to it, and hiring agencies and land managers realize that, there are voices that are missing, and we need to make an effort to bring them into these discussions. So over the course of, 11 years, female representation in the outdoor and in conservation rose by, I'm not great at math, but almost 20%. All right. Now to talk a little bit more about kind of the philosophy behind Operation Fresh Start. That's a nice picture of me with some of the crew. Every person in that picture, besides myself, has graduated and are working in the conservation industry right now. And all of those great things you see on the table in front of them there were all purchased from that gear scholarship. So going back to when Operation Fresh Start was founded by Jack Osteros back in the 70s, it was largely founded around the idea of the bond theory, which I am forgetting the name of the sociologist who came up with it, and I did not write it down in my notes, so I apologize for that. But bond theory essentially is the idea, it's kind of that idea of like parenting by committee, that a young person will reflect the influences of those around them. If a young individual grows up in a supportive and positive environment, they are going to they're going to mirror those, and those will be the values that are instilled in them as they go throughout their lives. And then vice versa. If that person does not feel supported, if they do not feel like they have that loving and caring environment, that is what they'll mirror. We've kind of moved away from that over the years because it has a pretty pessimistic outlook, particularly on young folks. It kind of makes the assumption that people are bad and you need good influence to make them go in the right direction. So we've been kind of moving away from that and more into the idea of the developmental relationship, which is something that we on staff hear about constantly. There are flyers, we talk about it in our meetings. The developmental relationship is kind of the foundational principle that we try to employ when we are working with any young person. And it is made up of those 5 bullet points that you see below developmental relationship. And those points are designed to kind of happen in order. And this is in a descending order. So express care is kind of what you start with when you're working with a young person. And then you work down that list, or all of the little handouts we have at work are ladders. So you work up the ladder, you're building upon that last step. So again, I'm just going to kind of read them out. Forgive me again. So you express care. That is how you start a beneficial relationship with anybody. You show that you're there for them, you care about them, and that's it. Like just the fact that they're there, you care about them. And then once you have built that kind of trusting relationship and they know that you care, or they've seen that you care, they might not want you to care. They might not act like you care, but it's still there. That's when you can challenge growth. If you come in and you're dealing with a young person who comes from a troubled background, and the first thing you do is you start pushing, like, I need to see this from you, like, we need to improve, I need to see you work harder, they're gonna resist. Maybe not always, but most folks are gonna resist. That's why that caring relationship has to be built first. If they know you care, even if they're not happy with you, there's that level of mutual respect. Then, once you've pushed them to grow, you support them. Kind of one of the other phrases that you'll hear all the time at OFS among the staff is high expectations with high support. So we expect a lot of the young folks who come through our doors, no more than we know is capable of them, and also no more than we're willing to support them through. But that is still a very high bar. After you provide that support, you share power. So you've built up those relationships, you've challenged them to grow, you've supported them through their growth, and now you start to allow them to take more leadership roles. You know, maybe like in my case on site, let's say I have a crew member who we've been working a lot, they've been with me for a while. We do a lot of chainsaw work, so I've trained them up on the saw, they've really demonstrated to me that they know what they're doing, they work safely, they're thinking of the right things, you know. Maybe then if we have a new crew member, I have that person like do the introductions. Not that I would just let them just, you know, teach them how to cut down some big nasty tree, but at least, you know, allow them to get comfortable with the saw, like begin to share that power. Once you've done that, you expand the possibilities. Basically what it sounds like. You've built that relationship, you've supported that young person, you've given them a role in a leadership position. And now it's kind of see what's out there. Like what can they do? Where can they go? All right. So looking back at conservation academies last year, so over the last year, I'm going to read these next two slides out again. I apologize, but these next two in particular, I'm very proud of, and I really want to kind of take a moment to brag about the young folks who I have worked with over the last year. So in 2024, we worked with 11 participants and crew members, 4 of whom are still on the crew today, and I just spent all day with them in Oregon, cutting down trees. So 4 currently on the crew, the other 7 all graduated and all were placed in jobs. So we had a 100% completion and placement rate for last year. Awesome. 3 post-secondary enrollments. So we have some folks who are going back to school. MATC or Madison College has a really good arborist program. A lot of folks on the crew are interested in pursuing being an arborist. So we have had multiple go back to school to learn about tree care. 10 of those folks have earned their wildland fighting certifications. The 11th is currently working on it and should be done hopefully soon. 9 have received their saw training. Again, anyone who hasn't, any of the 11 who aren't included on this list, it's coming. That last one, average wage at graduation. And so that's the job that they would be moving into. For, you know, kids who have taken a non-traditional route and in a state where the minimum wage is still quite low, $20 an hour. It's not bad. Some of the placements that we had folks go into. One is Ace Flagstaff, where I got my start in conservation about 10 years ago. One of our crew members went out to Arizona. He spent 3 months doing native habitat restoration in the Grand Canyon and is still out there now doing trail work and construction all around the state of Arizona. We had a young man, actually him right there, is working for Dane County Parks right now. He's on their natural areas team. He's also in school to become an arborist and has done multiple job shadows with the Dane County Forestry Department and essentially has a job waiting for him once he has his certifications. Also, we have Dane County Parks and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. That's one position. It's a joint position. So the young man who is in that role now is technically an employee of Dane County Parks and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. It's a really cool opportunity where he is also working on the natural areas team while also getting chances to help with all sorts of projects that Fish and Wildlife is doing around Wisconsin. He was recently up at Horicon Marsh, I think doing bird surveys next month, or maybe this month. I think he's supposed to be going up to Green Bay to be helping with water quality monitoring on Lake Michigan. It's pretty cool. Also that program, it's an LTE, so it's a limited term employment. He'll be done with that in about a year. And the goal is to have that position ongoing and with the idea in mind of an OFS graduate moving into that position as the one leaves. So we have really strong partnerships with both of those organizations, and they really are looking out for our folks. Going on, City Madison Parks, City of Madison Engineering Division, the Urban Tree Alliance, Sustain Dane, Hoppy Tree Services, that one's out in Sheboygan. And then down at the bottom, the Madison College programs, 2 going for urban forestry, working to become arborists, and then 1 going for biology. He's only 18, so he's still got a lot of options. Some of the work we do day in and day out, we do a lot of brush cutter and chainsaw work, so a lot of removal of invasive shrubs, buckthorn, honeysuckle. We spend a lot of time with those 2. Also do a lot of savanna restoration, so cutting down cherries, hackberry, elm, trying to, bring back that native character. We do a lot of burning, particularly in the spring, hoping that we get a winter or a fall burn season in, but it went from severe drought to a lot of rain, so not ideal. Might have to wait till spring. But we burn with Dane County Parks. Our crew is basically rolled in with their firing operations. Really respect and I'm appreciative to the way that the botanist naturalists Lars Higdon and Shane Otto handle our crew in those, we're not observers in any way. The crew is worked in and are working important, engaged, and involved tasks on a fire. So yeah, just some real cool pictures. Again, everybody who you see up here has since graduated and moved on into gainful secondary employment. This one up here, that was just a cool day. That was out at Walking Iron, the wildlife preserve across the highway there. Burnt 300 acres in an afternoon. That was a fun one. We do a lot of prairie restoration as well. All the pictures here are seed collection. So during the fall, the season's just wrapping up a couple weeks ago. Spent a lot of time collecting native seed. Main partners for that are the Dane County and the City of Madison. So the pictures also that you see here, those are all from last year's Prairie Seed Challenge, which is a yearly event put on by the Dane County Parks Department, where they bring in, so it's the county parks, it's all of OFS, it's the DNR, Fish and Wildlife, Groundswell. I'm sure I'm forgetting others, but a whole lot of different land managers from around the area. And in the morning, go out and collect as much native seed as you can, and then bring it all back for lunch. Just a giant pile of seed, have a big cookout. It's a great event. Really good opportunity for networking and just kind of like building that community around prairie restoration. I think last year something like the county credited Operation Fresh Start with close to $1 million worth of seed. So yeah, they work hard. Also, it's just really cool on the ecological side that the county pretty much, they don't buy seed. Pretty much all the seed that goes back into county parks are harvested from county parks. So keeping that local native phenotype, trying to keep as much empire prairie plants in this area. Yeah, it's a lot of fun collecting seed too. You just get to walk around through a prairie all day. This is a newer one. Excuse me. Recently, we've been working on a water monitoring project with the CARP-C, which is the Capital Area Regional Planning Committee, and the state cartographers. So this is, as you can see, like I said, water monitoring through Starkweather Creek through the east and south sides of Madison. The pictures you see here are the crew installing sulfide monitors. So the goal of the project is to monitor sulfide levels in Starkweather Creek and see how they change with the seasons. You know, like agriculture makes differences, industry. Big one is road salt, seeing like how that impacts the creek. Also, Starkweather Creek has a history of being one of, if not the most polluted body of water in the state of Wisconsin. So it's cool to be, you know, a part of these projects, trying to care for it again. Crew had a good time with that one. That was a hot day. So throughout all that, we couldn't do any of our work without partnerships. You know, at OFS, we really stress the idea of the crew, like our participants take care of each other. We take care of them. Staff takes care of each other and the participants. But then, you know, you keep zooming out and it's all about the community and all the people who have believed in us and our mission, but more importantly, believed in the young folks who we serve and have donated their time, their money, and their support in not only helping Operation Fresh Start and our programs continue, but to grow. And I won't read through each name on this list, but these are just some of our strong supporters, and yeah, definitely happy to add Sauk Prairie onto that list recently. Just kind of a little background on the logistics of Conservation Academy. As you can see, it's about $250,000 a year. And it's a decent amount of money. And you can see all of those partners are how we're able to function. You know, it's not one organization that's putting forth all the money. It's, how many we got there? 6, all chipping in what they can. Change the pace a little bit. Here's some nice pictures of when we were working with Sauk Prairie back in, I think, August, September. So this was that Champion Oaks project that Tom was talking about during his introduction. And just kind of moving from left to right there, you see the before of that beautiful oak tree just completely, you know, being choked out by the buckthorn and honeysuckle. Then moving into the middle, you see kind of that in progress, got the crew working. And then all the way on the right was the after. You know, we're able to clear up a lot of space. Really, hopefully, just allow that oak to kind of thrive in the future, taking away all that competition, opening up for sunshine, allow it to spread, get that canopy going. So not this is necessarily a fundraising meeting, but if you were interested in helping, these are some ways to do that. You know, basically hiring the crew. For a crew to come out, it costs about $5,000 per week, and that covers all of the crew's needs, their wages, insurance costs, things like that. Yeah, we don't have to spend too much time on this one. Looking forward into next year, we have some big goals. We had a lot of successes in this year that's wrapping up through 2024. And you know, we want to keep that going. We don't want to sit back. Big goal is to launch the second crew. At the moment, it is just me. We have one Conservation Academy crew, and I am the supervisor for it. I am the only full-time employee of Conservation Academy. I do get a lot of help from people, but they're all kind of part-time and a lot of other responsibilities. So we want to double it. We want to add a second crew, try and open up more opportunities with that. Adding a second crew also would mean we'd be able to reach more people, put more strong, motivated young folks out into our natural areas, have them continue to carry on their work. And again, one of the biggest ways that we can do that is by continuing to grow and strengthen our partnerships within the community. Again, that community support is the only thing keeps it going. So next we have the question and answer for anybody who has one. Before we get to that though, I do just want to take a second to recognize, you know, I'm very happy to be here and to be speaking with all of y'all. But I wouldn't be up here without the young folks on the crew and those who have graduated and moved on. Again, everybody up on that screen has graduated. They're in their own roles. And so to close, you know, I want to recognize them, and I would just like to list out over the course of the past year, Nick, Kenai, Chris, Taylor, Nathan, Don, Marcus, Alec, Kai, Kaylee, and May. They're the ones who made the year the success that it was, and their hard work and their dedication, not only to their own well-being and future and the health of our natural areas, but because of what they did is the only reason that we're able to continue and look to grow and reach more people in the future. Yeah, and I just want to recognize that. So that's all I got. Thanks for listening. How do I pick my crew members? Yeah. So, like I mentioned, crew members apply and they go through a 2-interview process. The first interview is with my supervisor and another person. And if they pass through that, then they come to speak with me. The biggest things that I'm looking for when selecting a crew member, some big ones are just honesty and openness in our conversation. Also, I don't expect them or ask of them to have a clear and defined end goal. But I do look for, you know, is this something they actually care about? We have limited space, and, you know, sometimes people just kind of throw things at a wall and see what sticks. It'd be great if we were able to work with more folks like that, but based on our limited availability, we're really looking for people who this is what they feel drawn towards. And then also, I look for who needs it. You know, OFS isn't a traditional job. We are designed to provide a higher level of support for folks who need it. And if there are people who are coming in who kind of, you know, have their stuff together and maybe don't need that extra level of support that we provide, we may go with somebody who does. Not to say that, you know, we just cut or excuse me, close the door on that first person. Still more than willing to help them, you know, craft resumes, write cover letters, set them up with connections that we have in the industry. But, you know, we try to find those who would most be benefited with our service.
I'm sorry if you already said this, but I'm curious to know if you go out and recruit young people, not successfully trying to actively recruit them, but giving them like maybe an area high schools or youth camps, what have you, for the age of completeness, to inspire them to have this alternative post-high school experience that maybe they didn't think about. How do you go about that? Yeah,
that's another one of our big projects right now. We do a lot of recruitment and trying to get word out. We get a lot of folks through recommendations of school counselors, you know, from around MMSD and just Dane County in general. A lot of counselor recommendations. For our program, since we are post-high school, a lot of our people came through the legacy program and are already familiar with it, or heard about it through word of mouth or job fairs or things like that. Right now, we're really working on building out that network more, trying to partner more with other community nonprofits, see where there may be like a mutually beneficial partnership. Yeah, that's been a big project of late.
I have a question for you about tree removal. Had that really horrible storm at the end of May, and it kept a lot of people in the city departments and even private tree companies busy for over a month.
Yeah.
Several weeks, like 2 months or more. Were you all called up for that?
We were not called up for storm relief. To be fair, I wasn't. I got a concussion during that storm, so I wasn't working at all. Not because of the storm. I hit my head in our low ceilinged basement when we were hiding from the tornadoes. But no, we weren't called in for like the storm recovery. That would be interesting to look more into, what connections would have to be made within the city, or just who to help out in instances like those, because that would be, that'd be a great opportunity to try and give back to the community too.
There's a question from Zoom. Mike Lawson, he's directing it to yourself and Tom here. Does a crew benefit from and have a chance to learn from and interact with also people that are working with and for that happen with SPCA?
Yeah, so we do definitely try and make time for there to be more than just work. You know, on just the professional side, like, networking is always important. You never know who you're going to talk to that could open a door. But on the more personal side, I've been up here and spoken a lot about the importance of community, and that comes in those instances as well, like working with somebody like Tom and Jocelyn, or whoever it might be that we're in the field with. So we do try and create opportunities for that as much as possible. Tom, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add.
Well, you could speak to it better than I, but you did the on-site seminar for the meeting, the tree that was leading, that we went monitoring. You had your crew stop and watch how you handled that. So that's only, I don't know if the questions about the problem with when you start doing restoration work, you know more about the plants that aren't supposed to be there than you do about the plants that are supposed to be there. So, we didn't do any plant ID or any of that kind of
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure if that had answered the question, but yeah, the program is as much about training and education and just kind of familiarity and comfort in the natural world as it is about those hard skills and like teaching them how to run a chainsaw or mix a backpack sprayer or whatever it might be.
Here's another question. Terry asks, do you accept applications for youth from other counties besides Dane, City of Madison?
Yes. I had to think for a second because I just thinking about funding. We do. The biggest thing I think is then just as long as there is reliable transportation for that person to get to and from the building every day. But yeah, we do accept them.
I think that's it for the questions on Zoom. Anyone else in the house have a question?
I had a brief question, I think. Well, this is just opinion. I'm soliciting an opinion for you, but the reason that there are fewer minorities doing conservation work, doing natural resource work, is it because they're mainly urban population conditions and they don't have that much exposure to green spaces.
There have been studies that have said that that is a factor. Growing up and living in urban environments, where, yeah, there isn't the opportunities to be exposed to the outdoors, certainly does play a role. There's also, yeah, I mean, it is a complex question. You know, there's a series of intersections that lead to it, but access is one of the biggest. Not only the fact that folks in the city don't grow up immediately next to green spaces or nature, you know, working class families in the city also like to be able to get out and experience and grow that relationship. Again, that comes with its own like set of needs. Like you need, if you're a child, you need at least one parent or guardian who has, you know, the time and ability to take you out to those places for a day or more. Again, that's issues of transportation. And then, yeah, you know, you're thinking, I guess all that was to say, I think that definitely there have been studies that have shown that accessibility plays a large role.
It's one question for you and Tom. Will the Alliance continue to partner with the Conservation Academy? This was the first time, wasn't it?
It
was.
Who's the question from?
Me.
Oh.
And if you answer, I would encourage you to go up and stand next to Jake so the Zoom can hear you on the mic.
Okay. Well, I was gonna be a smart aleck and say, you have $5,000 that you could donate to us so we could hire them again. The way we were able to afford it this year was by getting a grant from Alliant Energy. But that probably means we're gonna keep seeking grants that would allow us to employ them again. That's it?
And we are more than happy to come back.
Good. So this concludes the 2024 presentations for the Sauk Prairie Connections. Our next session is in February 13th, and that is Indigenous Art, Soundscapes, and Military Bases. Doesn't seem like it goes together, but I'm sure that will become obvious. So thanks for coming, everyone. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
And good night.